if I keep resisting that, and if I keep going, I don't like all the stinky people. I don't like my stupid siblings. They're really annoying. If I do that, then I'm just perpetually like miserable and not becoming more conscious because I'm locked into the unconsciousness. I'm kind of, without even realizing it, I'm kind of defending the unconsciousness. I'm kind of going, if they were just a bit nicer, if they weren't so annoying, then it would be, my life would be so much easier. So for as long as I'm doing that and sort of resisting the way things are, they're just going to continue to be annoying. Hello friends, John Dalton here for the Emergence Podcast. I'm in Dublin this week, so if it's a bit noisier than usual or you hear a lot of background noise, that's what's going on. So here's what we're going to go into in this episode. Staying true in toxic environments, family dynamics, forgiving dead parents, and having a broken heart. So this person says, hello my friend, may I ask you something? Lately I feel like I'm surrounded by people who drain my energy. People who are negative, selfish, always complaining or playing games. It starts to feel like the whole world is pushing me to lose my balance, to stop being myself, just to survive the noise. How do you stay true to who you are when everything around you feels like it is working against that? Wishing you peace. Yeah, well, that's not easy, is it? That's probably the hardest thing most of us face, particularly if you're conscious, because everything kind of encourages you to not be authentic. Like we've got all these social kind of not programs, but like, I don't know what you'd call them. I think like it's kind of a combination of conditioning, but it's also we have this deep kind of fear that if we're ostracized by the tribe, we're going to die. And that kind of goes back to, I don't know, goes back a long way. So we've got that. So, which is understandable, but in the life in consciousness, that can be a bit of a problem. Because if you want to be authentic, then conforming to social norms, that's going to really get in the way. So we have problems with that. And then we have all our own kind of stuff about wanting to be liked and fitting in and all of that kind of stuff. So there's that as well. But then there's also, which is what this person kind of talks about, which is this sort of feeling of being overwhelmed by other people's stuff, other people's negativity, other people's issues. And it's like, where are we in that? What's left of us in that? That can be very difficult as well. And I don't think there's any like one simple, here's all you have to do. I don't think it's that easy. I think it's a sort of moment-to-moment thing, and it's a bit like the tide kind of coming in and out. Like you get lost, and you forget, and you're overwhelmed, and you get all affected, so you get all like narky and angry with people, or you find yourself, somebody's really gossipy, and you find yourself gossiping too. You just kind of become entrained with theirs. And I think like most things in to do with consciousness, like if you don't give yourself a super hard time about it, just go, look at me, there I am gossiping, and you can just let it go. You just let it go and stop gossiping. And if you need to apologize to somebody or you need to do something, and do that, and that's all. It's all fine. It's all part of it. So I don't think there's any easy answer. I don't think there's like, here's what you do. Here's all there is to it is this. It's again, meditation helps a lot because you can why meditation helps is because if you're used to what your inner space is like, it's much easier to know when you've drifted from it or you've drifted away from it. So if you can if you know that through meditation, then you can kind of go, oh, hang on, something's not right. You know, whereas without meditation, it's a bit hard to know. You haven't got a reference point for what your own kind of sweet nature is. So, yeah, not easy, but it's all just part of life. Okay, this person says, hi there, I'm just wondering, how do you not take other people's stuff? How do you not take on other people's stuff? Kind of similar. You know, the moods, the energy, the drama. I walk into the room heavy and suddenly I am carrying it too. Like I signed up for it. Between the office politics, the kids, and my sisters acting like I'm still 12, I'm finding it harder and harder to keep what's mine, mine, and leave the rest alone. Do you have any advice for how to stay grounded without turning into a brick wall? Well, it's kind of similar, isn't it? Like, particularly, I mean, it's because they mentioned their sisters, like family dynamics just add everything. It kind of adds steroids to the whole thing of being able to stay true to who you are in the face of a lot of pressure, external pressure. And family is even more, that's even more intense, because with family, it's like they know where all the buttons are. They know where the nuclear codes are. They know how to push your buttons, and they know how to, you know, get you going. And in a way, it's part of how they serve us and how we serve each other, because we can kind of, you know, it's like the kind of cliche of the guy living in the cave and like he's all peaceful, or the woman living in a cave. They're all peaceful and calm and everything is beautiful, and they can talk about relationships and they can talk about love, you know. I was only talking to somebody during the week about this, and they were going, yeah, well, how helpful is all that? Like, if you've got 4 screaming kids and your partner's not on the same page as you know, what do you do then, kind of thing? And it's kind of true. Like, our families help us see our unconsciousness. Okay, so that's helpful. It's helpful to kind of see that, to kind of go, yeah, this person's driving me insane, but they've always driven me insane. They always say the thing that just totally drives me insane. So when you see that happening, then you can kind of own it, I suppose, you know, because of all the siblings you could have had, you have these siblings, you know. Of all the parents you could have had, you have these parents. So that's helpful to sort of, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it sort of makes me feel more empowered when I think of it like that, when I kind of go, well, I chose them. Let me start from that point. And when I do that, then I can go, well, why would I have chosen them? And how is it helping me? How is it helping me become more conscious? I do that, and it's helpful. So you do that with your siblings, and then kind of, when you're kind of going, like, everything is, as far as I can see, is here to help me become more conscious. So I'm guessing it's the same for you, but certainly for me. And it's a combination of, that's a choice I make, like I'm choosing to see it like that, but it's also my observation. Now, if I keep resisting that, and if I keep going, I don't like all the stinky people, I don't like my stupid siblings, they're really annoying. If I do that, then I'm just perpetually like miserable and not becoming more conscious, because I'm locked into the unconsciousness. I'm kind of, without even realizing it, I'm kind of defending the unconsciousness. I'm kind of going, if they were just a bit nicer, if they weren't so annoying, then it would be, you know, my life would be so much easier. So for as long as I'm doing that and sort of resisting the way things are, they're just going to continue to be annoying. They're just going to continue to treat you like you're 12, or treat me like I'm 12. And the only way you really know you're kind of got through that bit of unconsciousness is if they say the triggering things and you're not triggered anymore, then it's like, okay, I've kind of moved through it. I've returned to love. So yeah, I know like family can be very difficult, and when you are very focused on them from that perspective of like, oh my God, why are they so difficult? Then yeah, it's kind of continual hot and cold running triggers and stuff coming up. But it's not all like that. You can settle with it. You can see it in terms of it's all serving me. But you have to mean that. You can't just say it. You can't just pretend to yourself or like, oh, that sounds great, John. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Like, you really have to feel it with all your heart, because there's no kind of hidden consciousness. The processing consciousness. Like, you can pretend, oh yeah, I like the sound of that. Yeah, then my family won't drive me as nuts as they are currently driving me. Yeah, let me do that. But you don't really have it inside you, then you're just going to get triggered. And even when you do know it, you're still going to get triggered. But at least you'll be able to use the trigger. You'll be able to kind of look into it and go, oh yeah, I think I can kind of see what this is about. So, yeah, again, not easy. People all around, overwhelming. But family particularly, it's very hard to just kind of, you can open your vents and let it all through a lot. But yeah, because you've kind of got this pact almost with them, it's trickier. It's trickier with family. Okay, this person says, hello love, may I ask you something a bit tender? My parents have been gone for some time now, and still I find myself holding on to things, old hurts, words unsaid, things they could have done better or not done at all. I want to let it go, to make some kind of peace, but how do you truly forgive people who are no longer here to hear it? Is it even possible to find that kind of closure with the dead? Okay, well, that's tricky. That is tricky because, it's hard enough to do it with them when they're alive, and I think a lot of the difficulties with parent stuff is people kind of run into this thing of they're, having it out with their 80-year-old parents about stuff that happened or their parents did when they were 50 or 40. A much younger, much more unconscious version of their parents, and yet the child is like demanding, justice. And don't get me wrong, they deserve justice, and they've got very good reasons, their claims on justice are very justified. Like, some of the things that parents get up to are atrocious, and most parents, they don't want to know. It takes a very special kind of parent to want to know about it and to be able to hear it, because from the parents' point of view, they were doing everything they could. They were doing everything they could to provide for the child. And from the parents' point of view, they're thinking about their childhood. And they're like, well, you had shoes, didn't you? I gave you shoes, And the child is like, yeah, but, the adult child is like, yeah, but you weren't there for me emotionally, And that's kind of, as I see it, it's like the progression of consciousness, The stuff that the parents had to deal with, which was the no shoes, the basic survival stuff, they were able to move on enough to be able to provide that for their kids. And from their kids' point of view, it's like, yeah, but it wasn't enough. Well, like, I wanted more, And the parents are like, my God, if you'd seen what I had, if you'd seen what I had to deal with, And again, Like that takes quite a bit of perspective to be able to see that and to not get upset about it, you know? It takes a lot of compassion, a lot of kindness, lots of love to be able to accept the way evolution works. Evolution of consciousness. And you can kind of go, yeah, I get that as a concept. But it can be tricky to live it, because to live it means to accept that it's going to be easier for future generations. That's where people get stuck. You know, they kind of, it's like the cliche of the way people complaining about millennials, you know, about how they're so like, they feel so entitled and they're so sensitive and oh my God, you can't say anything to them. Of course that's the way they're going to be, because everything's moved forward and they are able to talk about things that we weren't able to talk about, or the previous generation weren't able to talk about. And it's great, but it's, you know, you have to really come into yourself and be able to not begrudge it to them and to not kind of go, oh, they didn't have it tough, you know. I can remember being involved in a sales thing years and years ago. And, you know, I'm a sensitive person. me being in a sales thing is a terrible idea. That's kind of obvious now, but at the time it wasn't obvious to me. So I'm in this sales thing, and this guy who was like teaching me about sales, he became exasperated with me or something for some reason. And he was saying, you won't know you really want it till you're shaving in cold water in a public toilet. I was like looking at him going, that is a very specific and strange analogy. Why? I don't get it. And like, it's obvious that that's what he had to do. So in his mind, it's like, unless you've reached that point and you see yourself doing that, then you're never gonna, you know, you don't really want it like you're supposed to want it, you know? So it's kind of the same with generations, you know, future generations or generations that are coming through. Is that feeling of like, can I let them have it? Can I let it be easier for them, you know? Anyway, it's around the same thing of this person, but can I forgive my parents? It's like doing that the other way and kind of going, considering what they had to come through, considering the consciousness. Like, I'm walking around Dublin right at the moment, and this is like the town I was born in and raised in. But, you know, what it's like now is so different. When I think about what it was like when I was a kid, back in the 60s, it was like the Dark Ages, you know? It was absolutely like the Dark Ages. I mean, I've said this before, but like I can remember watching Mad Men and the casual violence that was done to children, you know? The neighbor would just slap your child if they thought they were getting out of line. And I could totally relate to that. I was like, yeah, I remember that. I don't think I was ever slapped by a neighbor, but that kind of casual slapping, yeah, it went on. It definitely went on. So that was not surprising to me. That was not surprising to me at all. So with the parents, it's very hard with parents to, you know, like people often want to try and confront the parents and have it out with them. And if your parent is up for it, great, but most parents aren't. And it's like, well, what, they should just get away with it? And I don't know, I don't really think of it like that. I kind of think of it, how is it in you? Can you find a place of peace inside yourself about your parents? Because if you can't, you're just going to be miserable regardless of what happens. And if it has to come from, if you have to get the parent, your happiness means the parent is going to say sorry for being such a shit parent. Then you're always going to be unhappy, because no parent will ever really admit that, because they all think they were a great parent, and they were with what they had. That's the tricky bit. That's the very tricky bit. And the hard bit about death is that once they are dead, all the possibility of them, of you being able to get some sort of closure with them, it's over. It's just gone. You're just not going to get it. And that is the hard bit about your parents dying. So, firstly, I mean, this person's parents are gone. But if your parents are alive, if you can come to a place of peace about everything, about the injustices, about everything, if you can come to a place of peace about that before they die, you will be doing yourself a huge favor, because you'll be giving yourself the favor of a sort of closure that will be much harder to do once they're gone. So I, I don't know how well you're going to be able to hear me over this music. So if you can do that when they're alive, brilliant. If not, if they're gone, then, I mean, in a way, it's kind of going back to what was the truth of your relationship with them, even when they're alive. Meaning, the things you are upset about to do with your parents are, as I say, they're from an earlier version of who your parents were. They're of the version of your parents who were 20 or 25 or whatever. So that version of your parents, it doesn't exist anymore. So you're kind of coming to terms with that, and you're understanding the consciousness that they were trying to struggle, their unconsciousness that they were kind of struggling through back then. And you're kind of going, yeah, well, let me think about their parents, let me think about the circumstances they came through, as a way to help you access compassion. Because once you can start to access compassion for your parents, you're accessing your own nature. And then once you can access your own nature, then all sorts of wonderful, magical things can happen, because you're not kind of caught up in your own unconsciousness of, I don't care about what they came through, I don't care about what their parents were like, I don't care about what the world was like back then. They did this terrible thing to me. So it's like a balance, you know. On the one hand, you have to acknowledge what they did and give to yourself and the part of you that was wounded by that, deeply wounded by that. You have to acknowledge that and go, yeah, that was terrible. But then you also have to give the compassion to them and go, all things considered, that was the best they could do. And I've had this conversation with somebody recently about, you know, the best. And it's so easy to get judgmental about people and people's best, and to kind of go, they weren't doing their best. They could have done better. Okay? I have found that everybody is doing their best. That inside everybody, there is a being, just like you, in there, doing their best to live what their nature is. Everybody is the same like that. That's one thing. The other thing is what their best is. So that person's best might be that they are a robber, or that they're very bitchy, or they're very manipulative, or whatever. It's very easy to conflate those two and go, they could be doing a lot better. They could be not robbing people. They could be not being so bitchy. Which I don't find helpful, and very hard. It makes it very hard for me to access my compassion. Whereas when I can separate out those two things, I go, okay, I can see the being in there doing their best to live their authentic life, to live who they are, to live the love that they are on the inside. I can see that's what's going on. But when I keep that separate, then I can also go, yeah, and their best is they're a robber or a thief. You know, it's kind of like that old saying of like, trust everybody but don't leave your wallet on the bar. It's kind of a version of that. But it's also this thing of, when you can separate them out, you can be compassionate to the being that's doing its best, and that you're not judging that at all. But then you can also, with a lot of compassion and with a lot of like just clarity, you can just kind of go, yeah, but this is what their best is. So let me respond to that. Let me not just be naive and just go, oh, I can see them, they're trying so hard. That's a recipe for just getting stolen from or abused. It's like, I know they're in there doing their best, but this is what their best is at the moment, and I'm going to respond to that. When you do that, it's a lot, you sort of run into a lot less trouble with people. So same kind of thing, apply that to the parents. You know, they were doing their best. Their best was terrible. Their best damaged me for life. That's all true. And it's not easy. Like, I mean, maybe I should have said that at the beginning. Like, reconciling with parents who are dead, it's not easy because they're gone. You can't have the conversation with them. But I don't think you can have the conversation with them anyway when they're alive. But you can do the same thing. You can come to a place of peace about it with them on the inside, because you can access your compassion by kind of going, well, okay, well, they were doing their best and their best was terrible. And those two things are separate but coexist. When you can do that, when you can say they were doing their best, that allows you to feel compassion towards them, your parents, and what they were coming through, and the amount of unconsciousness they had to deal with, and the amount of unconsciousness that was in the world around them that they had to deal with. You can do that. But then you can also say their best was terrible. It was, you know, I'm deeply scarred by it. And that allows you to have compassion for yourself and go, yeah, they really messed me up. I've got deep wounds. I'm still processing it, you know? And so you can give to both. That's the only way I know to find some sort of peace with people in general, but specifically with our parents, which is a much more heated kind of intense dynamic.
Just jumping into this episode to tell you about Patreon. If you're enjoying these episodes, if you're getting something from them and you'd like to help out, the idea is, like, if you met me in person, would you like to have a cup of tea with me? Well, you can, at least the tea part at least, because for roughly around the price of a cup of tea, depending on where you are in the world, you can help. You can help with these podcasts on Patreon. So I'd really appreciate it if you did. And thank you if you're already supporting me on Patreon. And if you want to, it's just Patreon.com/John Dalton Podcasts. And it would mean a lot to me. Thanks very much.
All right, this person says, hola, can I ask you something? What's the point of a broken heart, really? I gave everything, my love, my trust, my time, and now it just hurts. And I don't even know what I'm supposed to learn from it. People keep saying, you'll grow, or it makes you stronger. But right now, it just feels like pain for no reason. Con carino, which I had to look up, it means with affection. Valentina. So, yeah, simple question. What's the point of a broken heart? Nothing weird there. Nothing hard there, you know. I'm joking about it because, like, that's the question. That's a very fundamental question, you know, to do with love, and it's one that people have been, like, asking themselves for a long time. My experience is, it's not so, I don't know if it's, like, the idea of a broken heart. Well, you need to be careful what you say because your body's listening all the time. But the idea of, like, oh, my heart is breaking, I find if you just add the word open to the end of that, it changes the way you think about it. My heart is breaking open. Okay? There's a lovely poem about by Michael Leunig, who I interviewed on the Art podcast many years ago. Lovely, lovely man. And he talks about, you know, let your heart break and let a little bird come in and live in it and make a nest. And it's just lovely. It's kind of going, you know, your heart being broken is, it's not the end of things the way people think. It's the, you could say it's the beginning. I kind of think of it like that. When your heart breaks, it's almost like a butterfly breaking out of the cocoon. It's like your heart breaks open and it allows your heart to be a little bit bigger than it was before. And like in my experience, it's a little bit bigger because you're able to understand love, or you know more about love, because what's breaking is maybe preconceptions that you had about, well, I'm going to love you and you're going to love me and this is the way it's going to be and it's going to be fantastic. And then when that doesn't happen and the person doesn't love you back the way you want to be loved, your heart can feel like it's breaking with disappointment and all that kind of thing. But if you can stay with love, you can sort of just focus on the love and kind of what is the truth of me right now? God damn it, I still love this person. They broke my heart, but I still love them. So am I gonna be vengeful? Am I gonna be defensive? Am I gonna try and hurt them back because they hurt me so much? You know, that's a very human response. But then the hard question is that true? Is that the truth of who I am, particularly in relation to this person? And you will probably find that it's not. That you will be very disappointed to face in yourself that you still love that person, you still want the best for them, and that you are being given an opportunity to let go of a particular kind of expectation that you had about love. Now, this is not for everybody. Absolutely not for everybody. But you're listening to me, so this kind of perspective possibly resonates with you. You're possibly interested in consciousness and extracting the most consciousness out of everything, or that you're actively engaged with your process of becoming more conscious. So when your heart breaks, instead of like becoming defensive or taking it personally, I mean, it's not to say you deny any of those things. All those things go on, of course, but it's to kind of go, okay, this hurts. Hurt is a kind of an indication that there's some bit of unconsciousness that I have that I didn't know I had. So let me feel it and be sad and be all the things so that I can purge, allow it to burn me out. That's kind of the way I think of it. Like, I don't want it to stop until it's stopped, and I want to let go of all the unconsciousness so that I can be who I am. I can be my own sweet nature a bit more fully. But I totally know how much it hurts. I feel for you. It's very difficult, but you'll get the most out of it consciousness-wise if you can see it like that. All right, that's all I have for you this time. Trust you're well. Trust you're of good cheer. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.